Right now, as you are watching this, 4 separate blasts of charged particles from the Sun are moving through space in the direction of Earth. The first one has already arrived. Our planet's magnetic field was disturbed yesterday. More are coming this week. For most of us, that means nothing. Maybe an aurora further south than usual. Maybe a satellite operator somewhere adjusts a spacecraft's orientation and nobody hears about it. But for the last 20 years, there has been a claim floating around the internet that solar storms can trigger earthquakes. That when the sun fires, the ground moves. It has been repeated on forums, in comment sections, in videos with a lot of red arrows and very little evidence. And every seismologist who has ever been asked about it has said the same thing. No. There is no mechanism, there is no evidence. It is not real. That was the settled position. That was the position I would have given you at the start of this year. Then, in February, a team at Kyoto University published a paper proposing something that changes the shape of that conversation. Not proving it, proposing it. And what they proposed is a physical mechanism, an actual chain of cause and effect, by which activity on the Sun could, under a very specific set of conditions, help push a fault that was already on the edge over that edge. The paper does not say the Sun causes earthquakes. I want to be extremely clear about that from the first minute of this video, because there is an entire ecosystem online that is going to take this study and turn it into something it is not. What it says is far more interesting and far more uncomfortable. It says that if a fault is already loaded, already at its breaking point, already storing centuries of strain, then a disturbance from the Sun may be able to act as the final nudge. And here is why that matters this week, and why I am making this video today rather than next month. Because as of June of this year, a separate team of researchers concluded that the fault system running underneath Southern California is at its highest stress level in 1,000 years. One system that may be able to nudge. One system that is loaded and waiting. And this week, they are in the same room. Let us go through this properly. I am Adam Cross. If this is the kind of thing you come here for, real studies, real data, no invented drama, subscribe. We go this deep every single week. Now let us start with what is actually leaving the Sun. The Sun is not a quiet, steady lamp. It is a churning ball of plasma with a magnetic field that twists, tangles, and occasionally snaps. When those magnetic field lines snap and reconnect, they release energy. Sometimes that energy comes out as a solar flare, a burst of radiation that reaches us in 8 minutes at the speed of light. And sometimes the Sun throws material, an enormous cloud of charged particles, billions of tons of it, launched outward at speeds that can carry it across the 93 million miles to Earth in 1 to 3 days. That is a coronal mass ejection, a CME. A CME fired from the Sun on the 10th of July. It has been closing on us since. Our planet's magnetic field has already been disturbed. Forecasters logged minor geomagnetic storm conditions in the last 24 hours, caused by that arrival combined with a stream of solar wind pouring out of a coronal hole. And forecasters are now watching up to 4 more CMEs that could brush past Earth over the coming days. Now, when a CME arrives, it does not hit the ground. It hits the magnetosphere, the magnetic bubble that surrounds our planet, and deflects the vast majority of what the Sun throws at us. That bubble is the only reason there is anything alive down here to have this conversation. But it does not deflect everything, and it does not deflect it cleanly. The bubble gets compressed. It gets squeezed on the sunward side, stretched out behind us like a windsock, and that violent reshaping of Earth's magnetic field induces electric currents in the upper atmosphere, in the ionosphere, and, this is the part that matters for the rest of this video, in the ground itself. That is not speculative. That is measured, established, uncontroversial physics. It is the reason a big enough solar storm can damage a power grid. Long conductors, power lines, pipelines, railway tracks, sitting in a rapidly changing magnetic field will have current pushed through them whether anyone wants it or not. So the Sun can put electrical current into the Earth's crust. That has never been the disputed part. The disputed part has always been, so what? So there is a little extra current in the rock. Rock is not a fault. Current is not force. How would you possibly get from a magnetic disturbance in the sky to a rupture on a fault line miles underground? For decades, nobody could answer that question. And because nobody could answer it, the claim stayed exactly where it belonged, out on the fringe with the people who think earthquakes are caused by radio antennas in Alaska. In February, somebody tried to answer it. Here is the chain they laid out. Step 1. A solar flare or a solar storm disturbs the ionosphere, the electrically charged layer of the upper atmosphere. Step 2. That disturbance generates electric fields. Step 3. Those electric fields do not stop at the surface, they penetrate downward, into the crust, and specifically into fracture zones, the fragile, broken, water-saturated rock that exists in and around a fault. Step 4, and this is the crucial one. If a fault is already critically stressed, if it is already loaded to the point where it is going to fail soon regardless, then a small additional perturbation may be enough to determine when it fails. Read that carefully, because the entire honesty of this video lives in that sentence. The proposal is not that the sun creates earthquakes. The sun does not put energy into a fault. It cannot. The energy in an earthquake comes from tectonic plates grinding against each other over centuries, and nothing happening 93 million miles away is adding to that budget in any meaningful way. The proposal is that the sun might, occasionally, under narrow conditions, change the timing. Think of it like this. Imagine a boulder balanced on the very edge of a cliff. It has been pushed there over 100 years by slow, patient, relentless force. It is going to go over. It is a matter of when, not if. The tectonic plates are the 100 years of pushing. They are the reason the boulder is at the edge. What the Kyoto team are proposing is that a solar storm might, in the right circumstances, be the gust of wind. It did not put the boulder there. It could not have. But it might be the thing that decides whether the boulder falls on Tuesday or in 8 years. That is a much smaller claim than the internet version, and it is much harder to dismiss. Now, is it true? I do not know. Neither do they. That is what a proposal is. This is a hypothesis with a proposed mechanism, and it now has to survive the process that every hypothesis has to survive, which is other scientists trying very hard to tear it apart. Most seismologists remain deeply skeptical, and they have good reasons. The statistical work in this area has a long, unhappy history. People have been trawling earthquake catalogs for correlations with solar activity for decades, and the correlations tend to evaporate the moment somebody controls for the fact that both earthquakes and solar storms are common. Things that happen a lot will happen near each other a lot. That is not a link. That is arithmetic. So do not walk away from this video believing the case is closed. It is not. It is barely open. But it is open, and it was not open 18 months ago. Here is why this stopped being an abstract argument about physics and started being a story worth your 20 minutes. Because the Kyoto mechanism only does anything at all if there is a fault already sitting on the edge of failure. And in June, researchers working with a team from the University of Bern published a finding about exactly that. They built a physics-based model of 1,000 years of earthquake history along the San Andreas fault system and the neighboring San Jacinto system in Southern California. They fed it geological evidence, radiocarbon dating of displaced sediment, tree ring records of past ruptures, historical accounts going back centuries. And they ran the simulation forward to today to calculate how much stress is currently stored in the rock. The result, stress on multiple fault segments, is now at or above the highest values seen anywhere in that entire 1,000-year simulation. Not approaching a threshold, past it. The southern San Andreas last ruptured in a major event in 1857. That is 169 years of two tectonic plates grinding past each other at roughly 5 centimeters a year, with nowhere for that motion to go except into stress in the rock. And the same study found something else. There is a junction where the San Andreas and San Jacinto systems meet, northeast of Los Angeles, at a place called Cajon Pass. Under certain conditions, a rupture traveling along one fault can jump through that junction onto the other, turning a single fault earthquake into a multi-fault earthquake. The researchers called it an earthquake gate. And right now, with the stress on both systems running so high and so close to each other, that gate is effectively unlocked. So put the two halves together. You have a fault system that is, by the best current modeling, more loaded than it has been in a millennium. A boulder at the very edge. And you have a newly proposed mechanism by which activity from the sun could, in principle, act on exactly that kind of critically stressed fault. And this week, 4 solar blasts are arriving. Now here is where I have to take something away from you, because I am not going to sell you a video I do not believe. Nothing about this week is special. CMEs hit Earth constantly. We are in the active part of the solar cycle. Minor geomagnetic storms happen dozens of times a year. 4 CMEs in a week is a busy week. It is not an unprecedented week. If the sun were reliably setting off earthquakes on loaded faults, we would have noticed by now, because we have had a great many busy weeks, and Southern California has been sitting there loaded for a very long time and has not moved. That is, in fact, one of the strongest arguments against the whole idea, and it is the one you should keep in your pocket every time somebody tries to sell you panic about a solar storm. So no, I am not telling you that an earthquake is coming this week. I have no ability to tell you that. Nobody does. Earthquake prediction, in the sense of naming a day, does not exist and may never exist. Here is what I am telling you instead, and I think it is more important. The thing that makes Southern California dangerous is not the sun. It never was. It is the 1,000 years of stored stress in the rock. That is the loaded gun. Everything else in this video, the flares, the CMEs, the ionospheric electric fields, the entire Kyoto mechanism, is at most an argument about the trigger. And people spend an enormous amount of energy arguing about triggers, because triggers are exciting and dramatic and they make good thumbnails. Almost nobody wants to talk about the gun. 13 million people live in the Los Angeles metropolitan area. Thousands of soft-story apartment buildings, put up in the 60s and 70s, are known to be seismically vulnerable and have not been retrofitted. Gas mains and water pipes and electrical lines cross active fault traces. The soil in large parts of the basin amplifies seismic waves rather than damping them. A joint rupture through that earthquake gate could produce a magnitude in the range of 7.4 to 7.8, hitting the LA Basin, San Bernardino, Riverside County, and the Coachella Valley simultaneously. That is the story. That has always been the story. The sun is a footnote to it, and the footnote may well turn out to be wrong. I want to spend 2 minutes killing some things, because the moment this study starts circulating, it will be attached to all of them. This is not HAARP. The radio facility in Alaska heats a patch of the ionosphere with roughly the power of a commercial radio station. It cannot reach a fault. It has never reached a fault. That claim has been examined and it is empty. This is not planetary alignment. The gravitational tug of the planets on Earth's crust is orders of magnitude too small to matter, and the alignments people get excited about are not alignments in any meaningful physical sense. This is not a suppressed government warning. There is no earthquake forecast being hidden from you. If there were a reliable way to forecast a major rupture on the San Andreas, it would be the biggest news story on Earth, and the scientists holding it would not be quietly sitting on it. They would be the most famous researchers alive. And it is not, whatever anyone tells you in the next few weeks, a confirmed link. It is a proposed mechanism in a single paper, and the scientific community has not accepted it. The reason I am being this blunt is not to be a killjoy. It is because the real hazard here is genuinely serious, and every hour somebody spends worrying about radio antennas is an hour they did not spend strapping their water heater to the wall. So what do you take from all of this? 2 things. The first is scientific, and it is the reason this study is worth your attention even if it eventually fails. For a very long time, the answer to, can the sun affect earthquakes, was simply no, and there is no mechanism. That answer has now become probably not, but here is a mechanism somebody has proposed, and it will have to be tested. That is a small movement, but in science, that is how the ground shifts. Slowly, in a journal, in a sentence that most people never read. Whether the Kyoto proposal survives the next 5 years of scrutiny, I have no idea. My honest expectation, if you want it, is that it does not survive intact. Most proposals do not. But the honest position is that we now have to check, and until we have checked, the door is opened by a crack that was shut before. The second thing is practical, and it does not depend on the sun at all. If you live in Southern California, the fault beneath you is at its highest stress in 1,000 years. And that is true today, whether or not a single charged particle ever arrives from space. It was true last month. It will be true next month. You cannot retrofit your apartment building this afternoon. But you can have 2 weeks of water. You can have food that does not need cooking. You can know where the gas shutoff valve is, and have the tool to turn it. You can bolt the heavy furniture to the wall and strap the water heater. Because in a major earthquake, the things that hurt people most often are not collapsing buildings. They are the objects inside them. You can have a communication plan for when the mobile networks fail, because they will fail. And you can know your neighbors, because in the first hours after a major rupture, the people who reach you are not going to be a federal team flying in from Atlanta. They are going to be the people on your street. The sun will keep firing. It has been firing for 4.5 billion years, and it will keep firing long after everyone watching this is gone. The fault will keep loading, 5 centimeters a year, patiently, whether anybody is paying attention or not. And one day, for reasons that may have nothing whatsoever to do with the sky, it will let go. The only variable any of us actually controls is what has been built and what has been prepared on the day it does. If you got something out of this, subscribe. And leave me a comment. Tell me honestly, before you clicked on this video, did you think the sun could set off an earthquake? I want to know what you believed and where you heard it, because that is half of what this channel is actually about. Share this with someone in California. Not to scare them, to get them to fill a few water containers this weekend. I am Adam Cross. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.